I was seeing some of my friends overdosing, I just said, God, like, if you can get me out of here, I want to live for you. Like, I want another start at life. And I really could hear the Lord's voice just say, like, this isn't the end of your story. You're not going to stay here. I grew up in a small town in Michigan, but I was actually born in Nashville.
Oh, really?
Making new memories where I was born.
Tell me about how you figured out that you could sing and how you ended up making this your career.
Okay, so from a young age, I always loved to sing. My dad actually sang a lot when we were kids. He actually liked writing songs, and I'm not going to say he was a great singer, but he just always unashamedly sang at the top of his lungs. Yeah. So I think that partly formed it in me. And then just throughout the years, I got kind of hooked on like gospel music, and listening to Mariah Carey was like a big part of my childhood. Yeah, I kind of was influenced early on just like some really soulful music. So I'm like, I've got to learn how to sing like that.
So you were the kid in your bedroom trying to hit the big Mariah Carey runs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you still do that? Are you a good lip syncer in the car? You could sing alonger?
Actually, when I was young, I was a part of a lip sync competition in my town. And so my friends and I were pretty competitive, and we took first place every year on the lip sync competition. So now I'm using that skill a lot, like in my newer clips and teasers of my songs. And I've been training for this my whole life.
Ready to do the music video. It's like your fun fact at parties too. Will you talk to me a little bit about the song Desperate and where that came from?
I had moved to Nashville in 2019 to get closer to just the music industry and wanting to pursue music full time. I was getting some offers from some record labels and really thought my life was about to change in a really big way with music. And then the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving to Georgia to reconnect with my dad, who I hadn't seen in years. My parents divorced at a young age, so I lost track of my dad, and he was a professional boxer. So throughout his life, he really struggled with the mental illness, Parkinson's, and dementia. And I packed a bag for a week. That turned into 3 months. I was his live-in caregiver. And then 3 months turned into 4 years. And I was basically there walking him through the final years of his life. We made some really beautiful memories, but definitely some of my darkest, hardest times. There was a lot that the Lord did in my heart. He passed in August of 2023. And that was kind of what shifted things for me. I moved back to Nashville and started getting into writing rooms, and just had a lot that I had just experienced. You know, I'd always have a really heavy story about, you know, what just happened to me. And I hadn't even really got to process it. And we just thought, let's write a song that can give language to cry out to God for a miracle, or to cry out to God out of desperation for the things that we need. And so that song, I feel like, is something I've needed for the last 5 years, and it's bringing a lot of healing to me now.
I know that this is like your first sort of foray into like people on a large scale hearing your songs and being on the radio. I assume you haven't had a radio hit before now, right?
First time.
So when it comes to you, because you said this was a song you felt like you needed, have you heard from anybody yet who has been impacted by the song?
Every day I get to wake up and read comments of people that are just letting me know, like, these are the words they need right now, and the song couldn't have come in a better time. It's been so beautiful, because as everybody's first look into my world with something so heavy and honest and kind of vulnerable, I was a little bit nervous about that, but just reading the comments, seeing that there's so many people in the same spot has just been like super beautiful, and it makes me want to open up even more and share more about my story, which I've been hesitant to share before this.
One of the reasons something like that connects so well is because our world is lacking in a lot of honesty and a lot of vulnerability, right? Because we're always putting our very best foot forward on social media and showing our special, like, here's what's good about me. And so I think it's powerful that you're able to do that. What is it that has made you hesitant to share about kind of the things that you've been through?
Similar to what you just said, where it seems like everybody else has their victory story, and even just other artists doing what I want to be doing, but I never felt free enough because I had so much going on in my personal life, and I never felt strong enough or happy enough to get out there and show my face to the world. I'm like, no, I'm carrying a lot, and I didn't know if it would be time for me to sing once it was all over. But I'm now learning, like, God is having me sing my way through it. And that's like part of why I had to walk through what I walked through so that I can receive songs that are going to help other people walk through it too.
I think that's really good. Like the idea that you don't have to have your act all together in order to be used by God. Like you can process your way through it and let him work. I feel like you just came up with something. That's awesome. Looking at your TikTok and your Instagram, a couple of things that I saw you mention was that you had dropped out of school when you were younger and also that you spent time living in a group home. Are you comfortable talking about that a little bit?
Yeah. My mom remarried when I was an early teen, and I really, really struggled with that. The man that she married made a rule of no singing in the house. It was more so to do with like just being a kid and making noise. He really loved my mom, but he didn't want kids. And so I was kind of silenced from a young age in my home, and it was very confusing to be celebrated in school for music and singing, but then at home punished for it. My mom kind of had to enforce that rule to keep the peace with him in our house. And he was like our main provider. Before marrying him, she was a single mom for a lot of years. And so this was like stability. I got kicked out of the house. It was for singing, actually.
You got
one day.
kicked out of the house for singing?
Yeah. So I was doing the dishes one afternoon and singing, I don't know, some song, Bop Bop Baran, I think. It was something stupid. I was just like in a good, silly mood. And then my stepdad came around the corner and he's like, I told you, no singing, and kind of just blew up on me. And he called the cops, which he was a probation officer. So we in a very small town. So like they showed right up and I got removed from the home.
How old did you say you were?
15. That's when I went to a group home. And I ended up coming back home for a time and then I got removed again. I just couldn't get along with my parents and my mom and stepdad. And so I was very happy to be removed from the home. I ended up moving in with friends and kind of got into a drug and alcohol lifestyle, just partying, staying wherever I could. Some nights I had nowhere to go.
How did things change for you from there?
I will say I had an encounter with Jesus at church camp when I was 12 years old. I got invited and I felt so loved by God at camp and so loved by my counselors that it really kind of marked me that God had a plan for my life. Around the age of 21, I kind of just was at rock bottom and I was seeing some of my friends overdosing. I just said, God, like, if you can get me out of here, I want to live for you. Like, I want another start at life. And I really could hear the Lord's voice just say, like, this isn't the end of your story. You're not going to stay here. So I started to pray and read my Bible kind of secretly. He would just speak so vividly through his word. And, you know, I'd read one thing and then I'd be out somewhere on the street and see it on a sign. And it was just like God was winning my heart. And I was like, this thing's real. Like, God's real. And I've been living in such darkness that, like, the light was so bright. And I was just like, okay, I get it. Like, you're here. You're all around me. And I just wasn't looking. And so I just slowly kind of fell in love with God's word, and I moved out and moved in with a friend a couple towns over, and I just started getting into church, and I spent the last decade just like studying the word, serving behind the scenes and kind of staying out of the spotlight, but really letting him like heal everything that was going on inside. So
if you had the chance to talk to a kid who is where you were, someone, and maybe not a kid, maybe just anybody who is still in that life of the dark late nights, or somebody who feels like maybe they're unworthy because of the way that they were talked to when they were a kid, what would you say to them?
Maybe the same thing God said to me, like, this isn't the end of your story and that there's hope for you.
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.